Hey, what's up guys? George here from mynaturalherniacure.com. And I put this video together because a little while back, I had mentioned on one of my videos that I was going to start doing some video interviews with some people that have inguinal hernias and have made some progress with healing them naturally, to kind of see what they were doing and just to kind of try and get some more information out there for you guys so that you can hear from other people other than just myself on what's working for me. I think that the more information that we could get out there and the more you can hear and kind of hear things that resonate with you so that you can put together something for yourself, is going to be beneficial if you're trying to heal your hernia naturally. So this is the first of those videos that I'm going to be putting out. And this one is with Logan Grant. He actually has a YouTube channel called Grant Me Topics. I'll put a link to that in the description below, and then he'll also give you his contact information, all that kind of stuff in the video at the end of the video. It's a little long, but I think there's some good information in it, and just bear with the choppiness of the video. It was a Zoom conference call. This is the first one of these that I'm doing, so kind of trying to work out the kinks as I go. So give it a watch and let me know how you like it. See if you get anything out of it. Make sure you hit up Logan on his channel. Any comments you want to make to him, he's he'll be able to answer any questions you might have for him on his channel also. So check it out and let me know what you think, and if you want me to keep doing more of these. All right, thanks guys. Here it is.
My name's Logan Grant Smith. Grant Me Topics is kind of a play on my middle name, and a lot of times I'll just go by Logan Grant. And also when I started my channel, I was intending to have it lots of different topics, but the main purpose was to be able to get some hernia videos out there. And then I ended up just doing all hernia videos. So I'm 22, and I live in Central Virginia.
What do you do for work? Is your job like physically demanding at all, or?
I've worked for a steel fabrication company for over 7 years, and I started when I was in high school part-time, and then went full-time when I got out of high school. And what I was doing up until about 2 years ago was all like manual labor. I was building light gauge steel roofing trusses. So it was all like self-drilling screws. So just like constantly just like pressing and lifting and like, yeah, it was pretty hard stuff. And then I moved into the processing department, which in some ways got a little bit easier, but I was still doing a lot of lifting and doing some engineering. And then I moved into the estimating department. So now I'm a proposal designer for the company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A little easier on the body.
Yeah. It's harder to mind, but easier on the body.
Yeah. So did you get the hernia while you were doing all that steel work?
Yeah, I did. So I started doing it part-time when I was 15, and I was diagnosed with the hernia when I was 17. Actually, no, I wasn't 17. It was 2017 that I was diagnosed with. I'm very active. I've just always been like that. I love hiking and working out. While I was doing the like manual labor job, I was like kind of crazy about working out. Actually kind of addicted to it. And so I would get up at like 5, work out, go to work at, like I had to be at work by 7. I would work a 10-hour shift, and then I would go home and work out again. And that didn't last long because I ended up injuring myself just from like knowing too much and not resting.
Right.
Um, but
Yeah, just not allowing that recovery time in between.
yeah,
I went through a phase, well, almost my whole life doing the same thing, just constantly pushing,
uh,
thinking this is the way you get in shape. You got to put, you got to push, you got to do it, you got to do it, and
yeah,
never giving yourself that time to regenerate and relax. And
yeah,
it was killing me. It was killing me.
yeah,
For me, that was when once I got the hernia, I kind of realized that about myself, that I needed to take that time to recover in between,
yeah,
especially just for the like when I started doing the hernia exercises, when I figured out the exercises, I was doing it every day because that's the type of person that I am. I'm like, I'm gonna kill this thing. I'm gonna do this every day and strengthen everything up. And then I realized that that was actually
yeah,
a worse effect on it than if I just did it twice a week. So I had to, give myself that recovery time in between to make sure that I give the muscles actually time to recover.
you're working like kind of funky muscles that you don't normally work. So, like I kind of did the same thing when I started. And then especially like with the stomach vacuums and stuff, I
Yeah,
would just like go crazy on it. Then the next day I'm just like, oh my God, like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm like that it does the same thing.
yeah,
I I think when I first learned about it, I kind of went crazy on it, and I had to like I did it once in like a week, and I had to like take a break for like the rest of the week just because I was so sore.
yeah.
It was crazy.
So what made you want to take the natural route and not get surgery?
Honestly, like I'm just kind of more natural in general. Just pretty much everything I do, I lean more towards a more natural or organic kind of way of doing things. I don't get vaccines. I don't take prescription drugs. I try to eat like organic, non-GMO food. And if I end up having an injury or some kind of illness, um, I try to take care of that like naturally before going to the doctor.
Yeah,
Um, so it's just kind of I guess the mentality that I already had. So I I didn't really want to settle for like something other than that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had you done research before, like when you got the hernia? Did you actually get like a diagnosis? You went to a doctor and they actually did an ultrasound or something like that, where they diagnosed it?
Yeah. Well, what was crazy is I I went to the doctor, like my family doctor, and and that was when I was like just experiencing pain.
Hmm.
Like there was no bulge yet, and he told me I had funiculatus, which like is your inflammation of the spermatic cord. And anyway, so he was like, just take some Epsom salt baths and like I think he told me to use ice packs and just take it easy.
Hmm.
And he said if it is a hernia, then it was like too small to tell. So it was not too long after that. I kind of like long story short, someone a pregnant lady had um, fallen and turned her ankle, and then she was trying to get back up and like went to fall again, and so I caught her, and then I like picked her up, and when I got to the top, I felt the tear,
Oh,
and, and I was like I knew it like right then, like I was just like, oh man, like I just did it, and like then I carried her over and set her down in a chair, and what's crazy is I don't think I actually had like a protrusion.
hmm,
Um, at that point, it was just I remember distinctly feeling like that tear.
yeah,
So I think it took a little while before it kind of like worked its way out.
Right.
Um, and I actually experienced a couple more like feelings of tear before it actually popped out. Um, so then I went to the doctor once it actually did, and he was like, "Yeah, you got a hernia," and then he told me I needed to go to the surgeon to get checked out. So I went to a surgeon, and anyway, he what's crazy is it, you know how they'll like go away, and then you're like, "Hey, I think I'm better," and then and then it comes back, and
Yeah.
so that it's like it went away like the day before I went to the surgeon, and then I went to the surgeon, and he's like, "I'm not even sure you have one," and I was like, "Well, cool," like. Then it was like a week after that, like again, and and, and then I went back to the surgeon, and he was like, "Yeah, there's definitely something there," but he's like, "I'm not really sure what it is." He's like, "If it's a hernia, then it's not really big enough to operate on. So just go back to like normal life and let me know if it gets worse."
Yeah.
And so I did. I went back and kept working out, and I was uh, I was like kind of passively like still researching about it,
Hmm.
but other than that, I wasn't really doing anything for it.
Right.
Um, and because I was still kind of in the mindset of like looking at surgery as an option.
Hmm.
And anyway, I then it got worse, and then I went back to the surgeon, and he was like, "Yeah, well, there's definitely something there," and like he's like, "But I'm still not quite sure if it's a hernia," and I'm like what? Like, because I had been doing some research, and I was like, "I'm pretty darn sure this is a
Right.
hernia," and I'm, I'm like, you do surgeries on these all the time. Like, how can you not tell?"
Right.
And and so he's like, "Well, I'm gonna schedule an ultrasound for you," and and like take into consideration this hospital is like an hour from my house, so he's just like sending me back and forth and back and forth. So I'm like getting fed up,
Yeah.
and so then I come back, and I'm in the waiting room for the ultrasound, and then this nurse comes out, and so that was like, her being a woman made it awkward, but on
Right.
top of that, I knew
Yeah.
her. I
Yeah.
was like, wait a second, I know that girl like from like my homeschool group. and,
Are you serious?
and I'm just like, and yeah, so
Oh, man.
so that was really awkward. So they made me lay down for the ultrasound,
Mhm.
which was a little bit, because I told her, I was like, "You don't want to stand up because um, it goes back in when I'm laying down."
Yeah.
Yeah. So when when she was doing the ultrasound, I was laying down on a table, and I asked her if I was going to need to do it standing up, because the hernia would go back in when I was laying down. And she said no, that it should pick it up, even with me laying down.
Mm.
And anyway, then I, finish up with that, go to the waiting room, and then the doctor comes in, and he's like, "Good news." He's like, "You don't have a hernia." And um, and I was like, "Then what is this bulging thing in my groin?" And he's like, "That's a good question. So I'm gonna send you to get a CT scan."
Oh.
And I was just like, "Oh my goodness, like I am just tired of this." And so I decided just to not get the CT scan, and but I wanted a third opinion, so I scheduled an appointment with a urologist
Mhm.
and went to him because I was like, if it's not a hernia, then maybe it's like a varicose vein or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was still skeptical. Um, and so I went to him, and then like, he comes in, just checks it real quick, and he's like, looks like a regular old hernia. And uh I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go with that and try to, self help.
Right. So how big did it get? Like when it was at its worst, like how big was the hernia?
Yeah. So when it was at its worst, it was about the length and size of my thumb in my scrotum.
Oh wow.
So it like had, gone pretty far down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Um, that was scary.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, because I get a lot of questions a lot of times from people that ask me about like if it's in my scrotum, do you think that this stuff will work? And I'm always like, I have
Yeah.
no idea because mine didn't do that. Mine was pretty big. It was the size of two golf balls, but it was up
Hmm.
above my pelvis the whole time. It never went down into my scrotum ever.
Gotcha. It's almost like it definitely is like shorter. Like it doesn't go down as far,
Mhm.
but it's more like the circumference of it is like smaller. So
Yeah,
it's like before it was, like the size of my thumb, where now it's like the size of my pinky.
right.
And I'm assuming that's because like the inguinal canal, like, I guess, healed back,
Mhm.
and doesn't allow it down as far.
Yeah.
um so it's,
Hmm.
it's interesting.
Are there some things that you've been doing that you think allowed you to make some progress with it?
Yeah, definitely. Diet probably is the main like immediate helper,
Mhm.
um or for me, because I think that even though the like rupture was from lifting, I think the weakness was mostly from like constipation and stress that I had.
Yeah.
And my diet was like not good. Like when I was a teenager, for like lunch at work, I would eat like two or three hot dogs, just, you know, and like a bag of chips or something. And now if it's like, now if I eat one, I'm like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
like what's going on inside of me? So
So
it,
is there certain
I,
things in your diet like do you stay away from gluten or anything else that you just completely stay away from in your diet?
there's actually very few things that I completely stay away from. I just moderate a lot better than I used to.
Mhm.
So, like if I'm gonna eat bread or something, I'll try to get like, some sprouted like brown or like wheat bread or something like that,
Right.
versus like straight up white bread.
Yeah.
For the most part, I like avoid white bread. I don't think I've heard anything good about white bread.
Yeah.
um, so uh, um, I try to really limit dairy. Um, I kind of try to reserve that for like, special occasions. So if I'm I don't eat sandwiches or burgers very often, but if I'm gonna eat one, I would like to have cheese on it. So it's like I'll just refrain from eating cheese for the most part, and then when I'm, gonna have a burger, then I can like really enjoy it.
Right.
Um, and I think kind of like my cheat thing is like I really enjoy craft beer.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just have to be like, really careful to like moderate that,
Mm-hmm.
because it just kind of like messes with my digestion, and if I just make it too much of a habit of it, I just feel kind of crappy in general.
Right.
Um, and Also, I was doing some research a while back, and in the articles and stuff that I was reading were based on like they were done on like binge drinking and the effect on wound healing,
Yeah.
and it like directly affects wound healing.
Really.
Um, so I imagine some of that would kind of carry over to
Yeah.
hernias.
Yeah.
Um, but that's another reason why I try to just moderate it.
Right.
Um, I try not to eat like crappy meat. Um, like I don't know, I would hate to go to McDonald's or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I am a fan of like in moderate amounts eating like quality meat. I think it can actually be beneficial to the hernia.
Yeah.
So, um, and
How
then
much meat would you say that you eat? Like, do you eat meat every day?
no, I don't. Um, I probably eat meat uh, probably once or twice a week. I do eat a lot of eggs though.
Yeah, me too.
Um, yeah, they're like a really big percentage of my protein.
Yeah. I know for me, like the anterior pelvic tilt, that was the first thing that I realized had an effect on my hernia. So
Mhm.
did you kind of put those two things together? Did you realize any like pelvic postural issues for yourself?
Yeah, I didn't know what anterior pelvic tilt was. I think until I think it was like maybe the week that you posted your first video on that.
Hmm.
I was seeing like some things on YouTube about it and didn't really know what it was, but then once I watched your video, I was like, oh wow, so I started trying some of the things you had shown,
Yeah.
and I actually noticed like improvements like right away. Um, so and what was interesting is that video that you did where you were basically just flexing your glutes, like that's something that like I didn't even know it was a thing, but like way back like earlier on with my hernia, I would just sometimes do that, and I would realize that the hernia basically stayed in when
Yeah.
I was like flexing my glutes really hard.
Yeah.
And then my chiropractor, I was talking to him about anterior pelvic tilt, and then he told me to do that to correct it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think definitely have had some problems with that, and just doing little things to try to help it has helped the hernia.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that that had something to do with it?
Um, it was after I read there's a like an ebook that's out online, and I was doing research, and I can't remember the guy's name that wrote it, but it was this short little thing about this guy that had a hernia and how he healed it naturally, and it was all about like it was basically him walking around on his toes. He went into this whole thing
Oh,
about how he feels like people weren't designed to walk around on feet on their foot being flat. He said that we're like the only
yeah,
animals that do that. So he thought that we were supposed to walk around on our toes, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I was willing to try anything at the time because I was miserable. I was going nuts trying to figure out how I could get this thing to not poke out anymore. You know.
yeah,
Um, so I was like, so I decided, well, I'm just going to give it a try and see what happens, you know? And I tried it, and it was like, I
yeah.
forget how long I did it for, but it was probably a couple weeks. You know, it took practice to constantly think about having to be on your toes all the time. But
Uh-huh.
but once I started doing it, I was like, it was kind of the same thing. I was like, man, like it's staying in now. Like before, I couldn't keep it in at all. Like it would pop out as soon as I got out of bed in the morning. And now, you know, I would still have a hernia belt on, but every once in a while I'd pull the hernia belt away, see if it would pop out, and it was staying in when I would move the hernia belt away.
Yeah.
As long as I was standing
Wow.
up and I was walking around on my toes. I'm like, man, there's
Mhm.
something to this, but I don't believe that we're designed to walk around on our toes all day long every day. That doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to me. So I got to figure out
Yeah.
what it was, like what part of this is making the hernia not poke out rather than just walk around on my toes. I look like an idiot walking
Yeah.
around, you know. So then I looked
I hear
in
you.
the mirror one time as I stood up on my toes. I was looking in the mirror and I could see right away as soon as I did that it rotated my pelvis under into the correct position. And I was like, and it was like,
Mhm.
bing, like that. That's what it is. It's my pelvis. And then I looked and I was like, man, my ass kind of sticks out really far. My belly. And then I started thinking like, something's not right with my pelvis. And then I started doing research on
Yeah.
it, and realized that I had APT, and that's when I started trying to fix the anterior pelvic tilt. Once I realized all that, and it was like, and I kind of realized a couple
Okay.
of things. There was a lot going on at that time where I was doing so much research, and I realized a couple of things all at the same time. So that was the one part of what started making the difference for me was the anterior pelvic tilt. It was something that I noticed right away, and then I could work on that
Okay.
right away. And then there was
Gotcha.
I kind of learned about the whole mindset portion of it, and there was like a bunch of other stuff that kind of I put all together all within that same, like there was like a 3 or 4 week period, and that's when I started really seeing results. But the anterior
Yeah.
pelvic tilt was definitely the first thing that I realized.
Gotcha.
So
What as far as diet goes, like I've heard you mention some things like you'd been vegetarian for a while or
mhm.
something like that. Like I guess kind of what did you do for diet?
Yeah, for me right now, I'm basically I'm gluten free. I don't eat gluten.
Hmm.
I don't eat sugar. I don't eat dairy, and
Okay.
I'm like 90% vegetarian. So I eat a lot of eggs, just like you. Like in the morning, I have 3 eggs every morning, 2 pieces of gluten free toast. Because I tried to go vegan for last year. I did it for about 9 months,
Okay.
and I could not. I was starving for protein. I couldn't get enough protein. I could feel like my body was I was starving for protein. Um,
Wow.
so then I was like, and I start looking like really skinny. Like I'm already a skinny guy. And like when I don't get enough protein and my
Hmm.
face gets like real super skinny and I start looking like I have cancer or something. And I
Oh
actually,
wow.
I went into the bank, and I was talking to my banker who I've known for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And she looked at me and
Hmm.
she was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, you don't look good. Like you look sick. Like it looks like something's wrong." And I was like, "All right, that's it. I got to start eating meat again." So that's when I started,
Yeah.
that's when I started eating meat again. But
Okay.
not very much. I usually have I'll have like a turkey sandwich for lunch,
Okay.
3 slices of turkey on it. Um, that's pretty much my meat intake these days. And I don't think that the meat necessarily has a huge effect on the hernia. I do it for other reasons other than the hernia. You know what I mean? I don't feel like
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to kill animals to eat if I don't have to. If I was in the woods and
Mhm.
I would be an opportunistic eater. Like I would kill an animal if I had to, but if I don't have to, I don't really feel like I would.
Yeah.
So, and then the whole
Yeah.
process of the way that they process the meat and all that kind of stuff is just, I'm not really down with it. So that's why I
Hmm.
steer clear of the meat. It doesn't really have anything to do with the hernia, you know. But the gluten definitely does for sure. Staying away from gluten,
Oh, really?
and dairy. Those two things have a definite effect for me on the hernia. So that's why I stay away from those two.
Okay. The gluten and the dairy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Are you lactose intolerant?
No, I'm not. I just
Okay.
don't like drinking milk.
Yeah.
But I was like you, like I love cheese. I love cheese on a sandwich. So for a
Yeah.
while, I cut out all the dairy, except I would still put that slice of cheese on my sandwich, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then I started saying, you know what, I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to put the cheese on, and I'm going to see what kind of effect that has. And once I cut out that one piece of cheese, I could feel the effect it had on my hernia. So I just left it out, and
Wow.
it was much better.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. So
I know what you mean as far as the lunch thing, because like it's lunch is probably one of the, you know, more complicated, at least for me, like to just think of something that's going to satisfy me, but like do what I need, like nutritionally.
right.
And so for lunch, a lot of times I eat like a lot of beans and lentils and rice, like for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cheaper too. But I had been in like in a can of like organic black for less than $2. Excuse me. And I would just spice it up like with some different like Mexican style spices
Mm-hmm.
and just eat that straight. And I mean it's all right. It's all right, but it gets old really fast.
Yeah.
And so like the videos that I would do, like the like hernia healthy meal videos,
Yeah.
those were when I would have like time to actually meal prep and really kind of think through what I was doing. But it's like when I can do meals like that, it's actually pretty rare.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just simple stuff, like sometimes just even like some nuts, like cashews or almonds or something.
Yeah. So are you doing any exercises now just purely to focus on the hernia?
Yeah. So in the mornings, I usually will do them if I have time. If I don't, then I try to do them when I'm home after work. And I keep it really like the exercises are pretty hard, but I keep the reps like pretty low. That way I can do them like every day.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like I guess remind the hernia to stay in its place.
Right.
And but it's really simple. I've been trying to make a video of the exercises and like how long it take or to do them. And but I think I did all under like under 3 or 4 minutes. And so I was just gonna show people that it's like, you know, if you just kind of make a routine, like you can do it really fast and
Right.
and just make it a part of your daily routine to do them. I do that soccer ball squeeze to help the groin muscles. I do the hip bridges,
Mm-hmm.
and then just some like double leg raise.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've started doing some oblique exercises
Mm-hmm.
because after doing some research, this one guy who had a video on basically the whole like muscle structure down there.
Yeah.
It was actually about the inguinal canal. It was a really cool video, but he was saying that the oblique actually goes down and I think it's the it was something iliac crest on like your pelvic area,
Yeah.
and the oblique like wraps around that and creates the inguinal canal.
Yeah.
So just as kind of a theory, I was like, I'm gonna start working my obliques and see if that helps anything. And I feel like it has a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do like some oblique exercises, and then I'll do like a quick like back exercise where I just lay on my stomach and just kind of like raise up to kind of work the core all the way around.
Right.
And then I do the like kind of prayer position, stomach vacuum, and that's it.
Do you think that there's one specific exercise that you feel would be the most important one to do?
I think I would have to narrow it down to two,
Yeah.
and that would probably be the not so much a specific exercise. I mean, the one that I do is like the glute one to fix the anterior pelvic tilt,
Uh-huh.
and then stomach vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was doing the stomach vacuums and not doing the stuff for ATP, it's like it wouldn't really help keep the hernia in. But then it's like if I do the stuff for ATP without doing the stomach vacuums, then it's like it still doesn't help.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have to have those two
Yeah.
At the bare minimum.
Yeah. That makes sense, because no matter how much you strengthen the muscle, if the pelvis isn't in the right position to hold everything in the right place, it's going to pop out. And what do you think about wearing a hernia belt? Do you wear a hernia belt? Do you think it's important, not important?
I think they're good. I think it kind of depends on the individual. I wear one when I comfortably can, because I've got varicose veins on like my left side, my left testy, for lack of better words. But so it's like when I have the hernia, it's like this is so like not PG, but it's like when I have the hernia, it kind of makes everything bunch over on that side, which like really makes it uncomfortable in there.
Yeah.
And then on my right leg, it's like I don't know if maybe it's just, I don't know. So it just cuts the circulation off my right leg. And I used to just try and bear through it, and I would wear it like religiously.
Yeah.
But eventually it got to a point where I was just dealing with like numbness in my leg all the time, and like my left nut was just like hurting me. I was just like, screw this. Like, I'm like if I might heal this hernia, but I might have blood clots by the time I'm done.
Right.
For the most part, I work out without a hernia belt, kind of for the circulation stuff, and I feel like when I don't wear a hernia belt, I'm more conscious of like my posture and like making sure I'm breathing to like focus on the hernia.
So when you're working out, is your hernia usually out when you're working out, or are you able to keep it in on your own at this point?
Yeah, at this point, basically, if I'm doing something that's that I'm like breathing real heavy, my hernia pretty much stays in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might like start to poke out like a tiny bit, but like I can suck in my stomach and then it goes in.
Right.
So it's like it's super manageable at this point.
Yeah. Is that like that when you're just out walking around too, like when you're not necessarily doing something strenuous, but when you're just walking around, is the hernia in most of the time?
I'd say it's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
And it actually probably pokes out more when I'm just like not doing anything. Like if I'm standing and not, because I have a standing desk
Mhm.
where I work, and if I'm standing and not focusing on my hip posture,
Mhm.
then it'll sometimes come out like that.
What do you think about stress and the effect of stress on the hernia?
Yeah, I think it really, at least mine, I think it was one of the main causes of mine.
Yeah.
And um and like I just, it's like I would start doing good, like the hernia would be like getting smaller or staying in or something, and then I would be hit with like a bunch of stress just from something, and then it's like it would, like all that progress would be lost.
Really?
um yeah. And I looked into it more, and it's like definitely a thing, like for stress to affect your fascia, and it just like dries it out and weakens it,
Mhm.
um, and so like when I first started noticing the like the pain in that area, I believe I was like 17, and I was like dealing with a lot of depression then and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it's like when I'm under stress, like usually I have like sometimes that'll give me like constipation and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like I was very, very emotionally stressed, and I remember just like dealing with so much constipation like
Mhm.
throughout that year. And then it's like, shortly after that, then I got the hernia.
Right. That it's so interesting to me, like the whole mind body connection part of it is like
Yeah.
unbelievable how connected your mind and body actually are. And that was what, for me, that was one of the biggest things that I figured out, was that made that link between, the mind and the body, and how it's literally, our hernia is literally a perfect a defense mechanism for your brain to
Yeah.
deflect, your thinking away from having to deal with your emotions and put it onto something physical. It's like
Yeah.
a perfect defense mechanism.
Yeah. It's and at first, okay. Oh yeah. And when I had first heard of all that kind of stuff, like the mind and body connection, I was just like, that's just weird. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, that's stupid. Like and and then I started like researching more, and I was like, dang, like why is it that like all this happened when all this was happening?
Right. Yeah, it starts being easier to kind of piece things together when you realize what you were going through and certain things happen, for sure. Well, I
Yeah.
was I was the same way when I first heard about it. I was like, I don't know about that. That doesn't, it doesn't seem like something that would happen, that could happen. How could you have a physical ailment, because of something that that you have going on in your subconscious or whatever. But once I started reading
Yeah.
it, same thing. It's like, wow, like this is real, and it's just as real
Yeah.
as like when, if you're gonna go and do a speech in public or something like that, and
Mhm.
you get butterflies in your stomach, or some people feel sick,
Yeah.
or some people, their face turns bright red, some people start sweating, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
a physical sensation that you're having because your mind is trying to not make you think about the mental aspect of what you're dealing with. It's giving you a physical symptom so that you have to focus on that instead. It's trying to protect yourself, from yourself, basically.
Yeah.
And people breaking out in hives. People break out in hives over
Hmm.
stress, and there's so many different things that happen because of stress. But a lot of times, I know for me, I know a lot of times when I talk about it in reference to a hernia, people are right away like, yeah, right. Like that doesn't make sense. But if it makes, if it can happen everywhere else, you know, like with feeling sick when you're nervous or whatever, then why can't the same thing be true for the hernia? I just thought it was interesting. Like when I started researching, when I realized the whole thing about the mind body connection, that stress actually affects the psoas muscle, which is a muscle that goes from your spine. It's the only muscle that connects your upper body to your lower body. It goes straight through from your spine to the top of your femur, and it runs. And it
It's
runs.
almost like connect them.
It's it connects the upper body to the lower body, and it runs from the spine, and it runs down right behind the inguinal canal and down to basically to your thigh bone. So
wow.
You know, if your inguinal canal is here, the psoas is right here, right behind it. You know,
wow.
And I was doing a bunch of research and found out that it's proven that stress has an effect on the psoas muscle. So if the psoas muscle is coming down right behind the inguinal canal, and you're under a bunch of stress, and that psoas muscle is pulled tight like a rubber band, now you're making a bunch of room behind the inguinal canal. You're making a bunch of room in there for things to slide through. Where if the psoas was full and not under stress and not pulled like a rubber band, it would be filling up that space the way that it should be. You know? So that I started really thinking about that whole stress aspect, and also doing some like release work for the psoas to release the tension from the psoas, and that that was another thing that helped a lot too.
Was it like a stretch that you did?
It was for the psoas. It was more of like like with a massage ball, like massage ball work. So I have like a massage ball that's about the size of a softball, and I lay down on my stomach with it right like about 2 inches to the side of my belly button, and I just like lay down and just like let the ball sink in real deep through all the musculature, and then I kind of roll it out, with a massage ball, nice and slow. It sucks. It's hard. It's painful because it's like really deep in there, and all your intestines are in the way, so you're kind of smashing everything in there, but it does work.
I'm sure it would. I'm sure mine's probably pretty tight because I have not been doing a whole lot of like stomach massages or anything like that lately.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that like early on. It's like there's a lot of basic things that it's like I need to get back to. It's just a lot of those things take so much time, and I would do like castor oil massages like once or twice a day, and it's like it's just so messy, and and castor oil doesn't smell good either, so it's like you don't really want to leave it on. You kind of want to take a shower afterwards, and so it's like the busier I got, the harder it was to do those things.
Yeah. At this point, like how much does the hernia, like how much of your thought process is on the hernia right now compared to like before? Like, would you say it's a lot, like it's much better, or are you still dealing with a lot of kind of, that all the time, all day long in the back of your head?
I don't know. I'd say it's maybe 20% of my thought process. Sometimes I'll get up in the morning or like just be busy with something and not even think about it, and then I'll think about it and I'm like, wow, it's in. Like it's not even bothering me.
Right.
And so, but like early on, like I actually would have nightmares about, like it was like tormenting my mind that much. It was wild. And I would just have these dreams where like my guts are like just like popping out and stuff like that. It was crazy.
Yeah,
But
I know what you mean. That's what it was for me too. It was like 100% of my brain power was like focused on this stupid lump. Like how do I get rid of this stupid lump? I couldn't stand it,
Yeah.
So that's good. If it's down from that to, thinking about it 20% of the time, good progress, especially especially because it was in your scrotum. That's like, to me, that like, I always thought in my head, like, if it goes into my scrotum, I'm probably just gonna go get surgery. That would be like the point where I would just be like, all right, I'm done. So for it to go into your scrotum and then now not be in your scrotum and be like where you're only thinking about it 20% of the time, that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely miraculous. um
Do you see yourself being able to heal 100%, or do you see yourself just kind of going through and managing it the way that it is now?
my goal is to heal it 100%. But I 100% believe they can heal all the way,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that everybody can heal 100%.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm at is I'm not sure if my personal hernia is something that's gonna be able to heal all the way, or if it's just something that's gonna, be able to get better, but I'll just, kind of maintain. But I'm trying to get to the complete healing.
Yeah.
It's so manageable, and I feel pretty comfortable doing almost anything with it, even when I'm like not wearing a hernia belt. I feel like the area is strengthened, like the area around it is strengthened enough to where like a blowout basically is not really part of the equation anymore.
Right.
Or is really like a concern anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think probably something that would cause me to get surgery would be more so like, um, I guess like a job option or something like that. Not that I would just do that for anything, but it's like if there was something like really big that I was like, I feel like I need to do this, um and like they did not like pass me for the physical or something like that
Right.
because I had a hernia,
Yeah.
then it's like maybe that's when I would get the surgery. But if I did get the surgery, I would definitely not get mesh. I would, yeah, um, I would probably get the trying to remember what the method's called, but basically where they use your own flesh to like, and they kind of weave it back together.
Yeah.
Um,
That's it. The Desarda or the Shoulder technique.
okay, yeah,
I've actually talked to a couple of guys that have got that through over the years that were trying to do it naturally and just kind of hit that point where they said, I'm done.
yeah,
And got the Shoulder technique and had really good results with it, you know. So from what I know, kind of it's funny because I'll talk to a lot of people while they're trying to heal their hernia naturally, and then like if they do give up and they get the surgery, it's almost like they don't want to talk to me anymore because they feel like they let me down, I think.
oh yeah,
Where I don't, it's what I'm doing is right for me, but whatever, everybody's got to do their thing, you know what I mean? I don't care who gets surgery, who doesn't.
yeah,
It seems kind of weird, like even I've actually reached out to them to just get
yeah. I
feedback,
know.
like, hey, let me know how it went so I can tell people about this and how it works out and whatever. And like people just don't want to get back to me after they get the surgery. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because it's like when I would tell friends or like people that I would meet who had hernias, it's like I would be telling them, what I'm doing and what's been working and what hasn't and stuff like that. And they're like, I'll probably just get the surgery. I'm like, I'm not really gonna argue with you because like
Right.
it's really hard to do this. Like it's like it probably sounds weird, but like for me, it's also like kind of a faith-based thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Christian, and not that that has anything to do with like healing stuff naturally, but um, it's like I kind of feel like it's something that God wants me to do, because I think that, I believe God created us all, and I don't think He created us to. I think He created our bodies to heal, and so I think that um, I think that He wants me to do that, to kind of like, show that that's how He created us.
Right.
um, so yeah,
Yeah. I think, adversity is good for some people. Some people need, well, everybody needs adversity because that's how we learn and grow, through adversity. And
yeah,
yeah, I think it all just depends on what you're willing to put up with and how much adversity you can handle. I'm glad we did this. It's been nice talking to you, and hopefully people get
yeah,
some, some good info out of it. You know, um,
yeah,
I just think that the more information that we could put out about it for people to find at the right time where they are in their journey, they might just pick up on one thing that we said that
yeah,
makes a light bulb go off, and that makes it all worth it to me. So I'm glad we could do this, and
yeah.
let everybody know where they can find you, like your YouTube channel and whatever else, whatever other social profiles you want to put out there, so people can hit you up. And I'll also put a link, in the description underneath the video, and then
Okay.
so they can get to you easy.
Yeah. And I'll just say real quick, like, I really appreciate you having me on, and reaching out, because it's really like a dream come true to do this, because like when I was early on, like your channel was kind of what, you know, I guess inspired me to like even try.
Yeah.
And just like people are telling me now, like, it's like if nothing else, like my videos help them not feel alone. And it's like, I would be just like getting really discouraged, and then you put a new video out, and then I'm like, all right, I can keep trying. And so it's like it's been really really good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, that's
um
awesome.
yeah. So I'm on Instagram and YouTube. I'm not very active on my Instagram account, which is Grant Me Topics, and my YouTube channel is also Grant Me Topics. So if y'all want to contact me or anything like that, YouTube would be the better route, because I check that almost every day. So yeah.
Cool. Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate it, and glad I could be there for you. And hopefully
Yeah.
this video found some other people in the same spot that you were in when you found me, and have the same effect for them.